guys, Gary here. Thanks for checking in. So a couple weeks ago, I did a video on this guy, the Mantis X10. Not really much of a video, just kind of a, hey, I got this and I'm pretty interested in what it does. So most I can do is show you what came in the box and glaringly what I forgot to order. So I've been doing some dry fire and some live fire with it, and it's very good at detecting the micro movements that the gun is doing before you press the trigger, while you press the trigger, and especially during live fire, how that gun recoils after the shot breaks. And it sends all that information to your phone. There's a great app that tracks all the information, and it gives it to you in a couple of different ways for you to digest. And there's a spot where it says, you know, hey, this is probably what you're doing wrong. And there's, you know, it takes like the things off of that pie chart, you know, and whatever. And while I didn't find that to be as useful, I did take the data and made some determinations about what I was doing and how I could make those deviations smaller. And I also, just like out of curiosity, put on some different guns and like, how does it, you know, how's the gun move on my M&P 1.0, my like M&P number 1 as I call it, which is currently on there right now. How does it work on my 2.19? I have a backup gun, duplicate of both of those guns, and does it change from gun to gun if it's in the same model, and versus my Glock. And tried on a couple rifles, a couple ARs. It turns out that in the case here, there was some plastic part. There was two plastic pieces like so, and some rubber things. And I was like, I don't know what the hell those are. Well, those are to put the rubber things in the plastic thing, and it clamps around a shotgun. But we know what I think of shotgun, so guess what gun we didn't try it on? That's right. So mostly with pistol, a little bit with some 5.56 guns. Currently my AK is not here. It is being built from a kit into a full-blown AK. Long-term project, but it's not in my possession. And didn't try it on my 308. Mostly because it's expensive to shoot. So anyhow, trying it with the on the pistols and a couple carbines, and lending it out to other people. I had my 12-year-old son do some dry fire. My 12-year-old son did some live fire. Was with a couple of students at a range day, and I let them put on their guns and tried on my guns, and I was collecting data, you know, at different various levels of shooters. Like the rule of thumb they have in there is if you shoot a shot and it gives you an overall score above 90, like 90 to 100, you're doing good. And so I could get all my shots above 90. It still gave me the detailed information. So I was like, well, what happens if you just, you know, press the trigger worse? And I did some just like slapping the trigger to get it to do different numbers. And then I handed it to people who were going to naturally get different numbers. And it was very good at detecting all the differences between what we were doing with the gun while we were shooting. And the app has a great interface. It gives you an overall, shows you movement before and during, in a different graph. And I'll throw some screenshots up here. And it has a little video player that shows like in slow motion the quarter second prior to the trigger press and the trigger press, and then where the gun moved once the trigger broke and the gun kapows. And you can watch those in slow-mo, so it's not really live, you know, real life timing, but you can see where the gun was moving. There's also a different one they have where it will track the gun in live motion. I haven't figured out a way to utilize that for myself yet, but it is in there. Then I come to find out, my friend Rich sends me a message over on Facebook and says, hey dude, if you go to the website, it syncs all your information from your account onto your account on the website, and there's more interface for seeing all of the data. And I was like, oh, hell, I didn't even know. So I went and checked that out. I'll, you know, put a screenshot up or something here. And more things that you can go see about what's happening while you're pressing the trigger. Now, do I think this is a replacement for training? No. For twofold. One, it only is the technique of marksmanship. So like if you break the fundamentals down, the two fundamentals, it tells you how well you're adhering to just those. But shooting is a lot more than just that part. Everything that happens, you know, from the moment you decide I need a gun until the moment you decide the gun needs to go away is the things that you're training on. And this only focuses on a very narrow window. It just gives you some data that you can't easily collect on yourself. And then, so that's one aspect of it. And two, once you know what's happening with how the gun is being manipulated while you're trying to aim, press the trigger, and whatnot, it helps to have an experienced instructor help coach you on how to make that better. Like I said, it has some things where it says you might be doing, and I think it even sends you to some YouTube videos that give a little better explanation. But you're removing the human eye watching what's happening and how you're particularly doing it to offer individual custom corrections. So it doesn't replace training, but it will augment it. Now, something else that it does that I was interested in is it analyzes your draw stroke. Now, when I got it, I did not order a base plate for my MP, which I have since picked up. And it's got a chunk of pick rail on it. And you could probably, with some epoxy and a chunk of pick rail that comes, like pieces of pick rail come with everything, you could probably make that yourself. I just went ahead and ordered one, and it's a high quality piece of polymer, replaces the base plate. They have them for a ton of guns. I could get one from a Glock, maybe my LCP. Probably that gun moves all over the place when I'm shooting it because there's not a whole lot of real estate to hold on to. But something else that I realized while I was waiting on that was I have a holster here from Yeti Tac that's for an M&P with a Streamlight TLR 6. At least I think it's the 6. I can't remember. I gave the light away, so I don't even use it. But the holster fits the gun with the Mantis mounted on the rail, just like if it was a flashlight, and I could use it just normal without having to put it on the base plate, which is great because when the magazine was empty and I put a new one in it, it still functioned with the base plate. The downside was that when the bullets were out, I put a new magazine in, the Mantis was with the old magazine. However, it is great that they offer it for so many different guns because a lot of those guns don't have a rail on them anywhere. So when I went and looked at the list, there was all kinds like my Ruger 2245. It doesn't have a rail on it. It has a rail on the top, but then I wouldn't be able to use the sights. So I could get this guy and put it on a base plate or my shield or the LCP. So there's a lot of options there to do it on a magazine instead of under the front of the gun. Now, when you put it on a rifle, my first problem was that I didn't have any open pick rail on my rifle. The device has the slide on from the front. It does not clamp. It slides on, and then there's a friction lock. So the only pick rail I had in a bunch of my rifles was on the top, so I'd had to take the front sight off to slide this on. So then first trip to the range, I didn't have a piece of pick rail anywhere, even though they come with everything. So came back to the house, got a KDG, whatever they call their little click lock thing, and clicked that in a piece of M-lock, threw this on. And it allows you, it asks you when you put it on a rifle, are you putting it underneath, left side, right side of the top, with the little clip facing forward or the little clip facing backwards. So no matter where you could find a spot to put it, it calibrates itself. And then you lay the gun down so that it's not moving and it can calibrate, what still is. And I really am impressed with the level of data that it collects. Like it's just the smallest imperfections in your trigger press. Like how is the gun moving? And you might be aimed in looking at those sights or your red dot and say, man, that thing ain't moving at all as I press the trigger. And the telemetry will show that there is some movement. And is there something you're doing technique-wise that could minimize that is awesome. And I say that because I was shooting some Tremis small dots. I'll put a picture. And it was a bunch of hits. But my trigger presses and the movement prior to the trigger press was not the same for all 45 of those shots, even though the results were pretty similar. So it gave me a level of understanding that I couldn't get just from the holes in the paper. And possibly that might be too fine of detail for some shooters, but if that data, along with a qualified instructor, should be able to take the small sliver of shooting that is the two fundamentals and make that an area to be coached in to improve on. Overall, I think it's a pretty nifty little device, and I'm going to continue to use it. Probably use it a lot during my normal dry fire, and then out at the range, it'll get some use because I'll just put it on a magazine, and so the magazines that I use, those 17 rounds or whatever, will get data on, and then the other things that I won't until I stuff it back up again. But overall, the Mantis X10 delivers exactly what it says it does. It came with some level of a charge on it. It still has charge on it. It's not synced up to a phone, so it's blinking green. I don't know how long the battery life is supposed to be good for, nor do I know if there's a blinking light or something that tells you the level of battery that's left in it. I guess that'd be my only question about features it has, because it might have those features, like a blinky light turns red, orange. I don't know. I haven't looked. But overall, it's a pretty nifty little device that's good at giving you some data on the fine movements of your firearms while you're in the act of shooting. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for checking in, and take a look at these Mantis X10s, and maybe you can get the benefit out of them that I'm getting out of them. Take it easy.